Hi, so here is next on this. I have been sort of refining these first overlap petal shapes. And I've done a little bit off camera. I think I did this one, maybe this one. That was just phthalo, the phthalo blue, and this was with water and some phthalo green blue shade. And I'll demonstrate just sort of what I'm doing and trying to just get the edges a little darker so that they read a little bit more mottled, or there's a little bit of impression of rounding. So depending if it was if the shape was dark enough already, I would either just start with water, clean water, or maybe a little bit of color if I knew I was going to get a little bit darker. This one I think is mostly dark enough, so what I'm going to do is just gently paint some invisible clear water and I do remember this concept being pretty strange to me when I started, so be ready for it to sort of not make a whole bunch of sense. I have a bunch of greens over here, and I think these greens, I'm grabbing my smaller brush, my smaller synthetic, so I want to bring in some a little bit of darker green color just around the edges, but not a bunch of water. I already have water there, so that the color will move and blend. Sometimes there's a little too much water, and if it's not going down or not looking darker, that's usually an indicator that there's either too much water on the paper or too much water in your brush, or a combination of those. So I try to make it so the brush has a little bit less water, and so we'll let go of the stronger pigment. And now I think I'm officially fussing. I'm going to stop fussing, he said, probably. Yeah, I'm going to stop fussing on that one. But that's the idea for any that you want to get darker. I would probably, around the edges, I might do that with this one, although I think I did a little bit already. But what I'm going to do now is demonstrate just how to refine some of these shapes when invariably you sort of go make have some paint where you don't really want it. So for this example right here, I went a little crazy outside of that edge, and I just want to refine this yellowy orangey yellowy overlap shape. I'm not so worried about darkening the edges like I was, but for this one I'm just focusing in on cleaning up edges. So what I'm going to do is just paint the individual shapes, so I'm not overlapping the whole thing per se, but just this individual shape. And what I'm trying to get to is wetting this area down here in a way that I can scrub a little bit of that color, that green color that was outside the lines. Actually, that's kind of what I'm doing. And scrubbing that and lifting it away, making a thirsty brush. And that's just going to clean up that edge a little bit more. I would probably let it dry. In fact, I will let it dry before I come back and think about darkening that one, because that one will need some darkening, and I'll mostly just put some yellowy orange around the edges here. But I'm going to do an example now of refining these outer shapes. If you remember, this one, like way back in the beginning phases, I scrubbed away a little bit because it was a little too dark. So it does have, which was, you know, a good thing, and it does have, it's lighter valued towards the center, which was my intention. But I want to try to get that effect on the rest of these outer petals. And it's going to be a similar thing as to what I just did there on that one. So what I'm going to do is this one that's right next to it, this blue violet. Oops. Just dripped a drop. If you do that, and if it's not sitting there too long, you should be able to just soak it up with a paper towel and without too many awful things happening. Hey. So where was I? Yeah, that's right. Wetting this shape, and I'm thinking a few things here. I'm thinking I just want to refine these edges. It would be nice to be able to lift out a little bit of color as it's getting close to the overlaps. So I'm doing several things here, including flicking water. But it mostly starts with just wetting this shape with clear water. That's the first stage. And I didn't quite finish the clear water part, but that is good. I'm going to scrub away a little bit in here, so that's lightening up the value a little bit. I'm going to get my smaller brush. This is a little bit stiffer, and I might even try to wake up and coax some of that color away as well. I've already sort of taken care of refining this edge, but that's a similar thing as I did over there. I'm going to soak up some of that water that's sitting there. Refining that edge as well. So I've been taking away water and pigment down here, so it's a little bit drier here. But what I'm going to do is try to drop in a little bit of darker blue, sort of blue-violet, not sort of, blue-violet around the outer edge here of this petal end. So again, I have my small synthetic brush. I have a little bit darker and more concentrated paint. The paper is sort of a good stage of dampness, sort of factoring in all these things so that I can just kind of brush in a little bit of that darker. And that will just, all these are just like little subtle adjustments to the values, that the lights and darks that have an additive effect. I'm just making it look much cooler in my humble opinion. Let me do one more example like that and then call that enough for this video. Yeah, I think I was looking at this one. I'll be doing it to most, if not all of them. But I know that some of those edges are a little bit less perfect than I want them, because they have to be perfect. I mean, so once again, I'll remind myself that that's right. I just start with clear water over this whole shape. Very gentle touch. As you can see, it's beginning to sort of wake up some of that paint that went over the edge, out of bounds. So I'm just sort of refining that edge. There's a lot of water there that was just begging to tip out over that point. I'm going to clean this one too. So cleaning it like that will sometimes, refining it will lift up some of the paint around it, so it will change the value a little bit. And but you can come back and deal with that. And speaking of changing value a little bit, I'm gonna scrub just a touch once again towards the center. make a thirsty brush and pick some of that up. It's getting a little bit inconsistent, distribution of moisture wise. So that I forgot I had blue paint in there. Bad teacher. Let's not do that again. So I'm making a thirsty brush again, and I'm lifting that paint out, because as we know, blue and, was it blue that I worked on? Yeah, it was. Blue and orange, being the opposites they are in the color wheel, complements, will gray each other out. So that's not what I wanted, any blue paint in there. As I've been blabbing, all of this has been sort of drying, and so I'm just going to come back in with a little bit more clear water and re-wet the whole shape. Make sure that blue is out of my brush. Maybe lift a little bit of water out there, and I think I'm going to mix up a touch of Pyrrole orange, and still not convinced all that blue is out of there, but I think enough of it. A little Pyrrole orange and a little bit of Hansa Yellow Deep. And gonna come back in with a little bit darker color over here. And over on this side, maybe a little bit darker, but a little bit more yellow. Which is not darker, so it's a bit of a judgment call. It's working, in my humble estimation. So, yeah, I will set this aside and let it dry and continue on.